The March 28th, 2023 meeting of the Public Safety Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess is present. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Delahanty is excused. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman is present. Chairman Dondorfer.
Present.
Chairman Dondorfer is present. Ms. Hughes Smith. Ms. Hughes Smith is present. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne is present. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris is present. Ms. Vecchio. Ms. Vecchio is present. President Lamar. President Lamar is present.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
Is there anyone present who is not signed up to speak who would like to address the committee at this time? Seeing none, the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the February 28th, 2023 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. Next item on the agenda is new business. Mr. Clerk.
Referral 23-0077, authorize any municipal agreements with 8 municipalities for the use of the Tyler Records Management System.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 23-0088, authorize federal equitable sharing agreements with the United States Department of Justice and the United States Department of the Treasury.
Moved by legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Morris. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, oh, I'm sorry.
Through the chair, Jennifer Curley, and I will be answering on behalf of the sheriff's office. Most of the funding is used for equipment and training. Some of the equipment is tactical gear, some peer support training, headsets for the new radios, and some drone equipment.
Legislator Hughes Smith.
Through the chair, no, we set up a separate account for those funds. It sits, I'll have Bob answer that question.
Mr. Chairman, there are published guidelines from U.S. Department of Justice for the equitable sharing agreements. And dollars forfeited and forwarded to Monroe County are deposited into a trust fund. They are required to be used for additions to what would normally be budgeted within the operating funds. So that, Mr. Chairman, that spending would be captured on our year-end financial statements, not in the annual operating budget.
Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
That when there is property or funds like this acquired, it represents a trauma point in our community. And I think vote no on this. I think I voted no.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 23-0089, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for the body worn camera project.
Moved by legislator Morris, seconded by legislator Milne. Legislator Morris with the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration. In the referral, it states the grant will pay a portion of the costs incurred by the sheriff's office. What was the total cost for the body cameras and what percentage is this grant covering?
Through the chair, Jennifer again. We do not know the total cost yet because we're gonna have to put this out to bid. DCGS set a stipulation where we could only spend $2,000 per body worn camera, which includes the docking and the storage. So once this goes out to bid, then we'll have a better idea of how much the grant will fund. Right now, it's looking like it could potentially fund the majority of the purchase of the body worn cameras and all the accessories and storage for it for probably a year or so.
And just to follow up, you had mentioned that the cap is 2,000. Okay. Okay.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Going forward, if this,
Through the chair, I said storage costs. I'm not sure if there's software or not, but yes, the reoccurring storage fees would be budgeted in our operating.
Legislator Hugh Smith?
Through the chair, that is incorrect. We do have approximately, the police bureau has 130 body cameras deployed. Through the chair, like what kind of data?
apps,
Through the chair, Paul Simonelli for the Sheriff's Office. We have not collected data with the use of the body cameras has, the number of them have increased over the last 4.5 or 5 years. When the sheriff first came into office, there were less than 24 in the police bureau. And so as money has been made available, we've been able to collect it. From what I can tell you, just from general reading about nationally with body cameras, typically the number of officer complaints go down dramatically once fully deployed. And the number of complaints that are sustained have also gone down dramatically nationally when cameras are fully deployed.
have a reliable source of
We'll try to comply with that.
Legislator Lafleur?
Are these body worn cameras expected to be worn on every type of shift for every type of call? Are there certain times when they're allowed to be off? Can you just tell me more about when they're used?
Through the chair, currently, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office has a general order that establishes when cameras are expected to be activated. Once again, it can be situationally dependent, but there are guidelines for both the road patrol and the jail bureau as to when cameras will be activated and used. Once again, there are exceptions to those policies based on circumstances involving officer safety or other circumstances. But yes, there are guidelines in place. Would be happy to share the body camera order with you if you'd like to see it.
Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 23-0090, acceptance of a grant from the United States Department of Justice United States Marshals Service, Western District of New York for the United States Marshals Service, New York/New Jersey Regional Fugitive Task Force, Rochester Division.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Milne.
This grant, it states the grant will reimburse a portion of the overtime costs associated with the task force services. What was the total cost for the reimbursements, and what is the percent breakdown, if available, between the differences in cost?
Through the chair, the grant is for $40,000 and does not fund the fringe portion of that overtime. And for every personnel or for every person that works overtime, it's different. It's generally about 40% of the $40,000.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Bill 23-0091, authorize the creation of 4 new positions in the Public Defender's Office as part of Year 5 funding of the statewide expansion of the Hurl Herring Project Grant.
Moved by legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Morris. Is there any discussion? Legislator Hugh Smith.
How many are in current? I'm just looking for some numbers.
Don't have that information. Sorry, through the chair, I can get that information to you tomorrow. I don't have those specific numbers with me tonight.
Along with that information, would you?
Through the chair, your question is why we still have vacancies? Through the chair, there's been a dwindling pool of attorneys who are applying to work in all legal aspects. Regard to criminal defense, that's always been a somewhat small pool to select from. We are making efforts to expand the base of people that we're trying. Don't have that specific information for you.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 23-0094, authorize a contract with Squad 9 for Rochester Threat Advisory Committee Program Management.
Moved by legislator Morris, seconded by legislator Milne. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries.
Referral 23-0097, enact a local law entitled Waiver of Residency Requirement for Monroe County Road Patrol Deputies.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Vecchio.
Chairman, through you to the administrator. All that, while back. I'd like to know what.
Through the chair. Since the change for the jail bureau, there's been 2 major changes with the jail involving the jail bureau. One, what this august body approved in waiving the residency requirement. And the second has also been the changing of the civil service test process for candidates wanting to compete to work in the jail. Both of those, we've seen an increased number of people signing up to take the test that have actually received a passing score. Residency wise, I think currently we're somewhere in the area of 10 or 12 lateral transfers, former Department of Corrections individuals that are now working at the Monroe County Jail. And we're still targeting our recruiting with the Corrections Department as the major changes are happening there.
Another question. Article that- yesterday. Potential issue.
Through the chair, the issue with the road patrol is slightly different than with the jail bureau. The jail bureau is the only jail in this county. And so if someone wants to be a jail deputy, the option is either to work for the Department of Corrections or they can work for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office as a jailer. The road patrol is competing against all the other law enforcement agencies within Monroe County. Currently, the sheriff's office is the only agency that requires residency within the county. So when we start out with a pool of people that have passed multiple civil service tests for different agencies, we are in direct competition for trying to get the top people. This is, and for, reasons I can give you, we're convinced that giving us this option will be another arrow in our quiver in trying to convince people to go with the sheriff's office. We're trying to recruit the best of the best, and this always puts us at a competitive disadvantage at that time when we're going through the selection process. Also, people tend to leave. Typically, most families, both spouses are working, and the work may take the spouse out of the county. I know we've lost people because of at least 2 people in the last year because of that may have been able to be retained had we had the flexibility to allow them to live outside the county. We talk about quality of life issues. I know that there's a general belief that people should, in policing, should work where they live. And that may be true in an urban setting, but ostensibly we're talking about someone living on the fringes of Perrington, working in Ogden. There really isn't that same community tied to where you're actually doing your work like it is when you're in urban policing. So I think the recent studies have shown that there is no significant change in or improvement in the quality of policing or anything else related to having the people live within the community. But once again, when you're talking about a county setting, this is a gigantic county and very diverse, and people could still live, 30 to 40 miles from where they work. Where if, a person works in C-zone and they live across the border in Holly, they're much closer to the community they're working potentially than they would be if they were living on the east side of Monroe County. And there's some other things too that go into it. Obviously, when we can recruit laterals, it's a very positive thing. Once again, we get to pick the best of the best for the purposes of to improve the sheriff's office. And we have people that are already experienced, trained, and we've saved, that ramp up time and that development time of that deputy. So allowing us to recruit from the neighboring counties will give us an advantage. Too, there's one significant difference too between the jail vote or the jail legislation that you passed earlier and this legislation. Because of the nature of the road patrol and policing, we are limiting this to contiguous counties versus as we did with we didn't do that with the jail deputies because we did want to attract folks from the Department of Corrections, and the way their scheduling and other things are done, it was more conducive to reaching farther out. So there is that limitation too. These people still are wed to Monroe County by border, at least by border.
Mentioned training. Put them through a full.
Through the chair, absolutely. We have a normal process we go through for laterals. And usually when we've done this, it's been one or two at a time, but they do go through training on all our general orders, rules and regulations. They go through the field training also before they're set loose in Monroe County.
Okay, legislator Hugh Smith, you have the floor.
Through the chair, there's several elements that go into selection of duties. Some of that is controlled by the collective bargaining agreement based on seniority, what job they were holding before. And so as a person rises up and gains seniority, when it comes time to pick for openings, they have that option, of course, of picking closer to home, or if they want to live 30 miles from home, they can choose that also. And once again, that's pretty much personal selection, unless it's a specialized position. It'll be based pretty much on seniority.
Likely to be.
Through the chair, I can't speculate on what's likely. I just know what what we've seen with other agencies and what people choose to do. There are within Monroe County, the other law enforcement agencies. Some people do live in the community they work in. Some live outside the county. Some live in a suburb next to where they work. They may live in Chi-Li and work in Gates. So it's personal choice. But once again, that giving them that choice is a recruitment and tool for us, and also helps us level the playing field with the competition we have with those other agencies.
Able to justify whether or not this is.
So she's asking for numbers on how many people came from outside, from the jail. Okay. I'll uphold your point of order, because you're right, it's not germane to this. However, it is a question that could be asked through we could send them an email and ask them to answer that question. I understand why you're asking. Yeah. Yeah, you know what, Mr. Simonelli, do you have that information available, or can you make that information available?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm sure we can make it available. I just want once again to clarify, we'll be more than happy to provide that information, but it really is two very distinct jobs, being a jailer versus being road patrol. And what the expectations are, what the limitations are related to those jobs. And so while we'll be happy to share that information with you, I don't know that it draws a correlation or will be informative other than just on those raw numbers that we give you, but we'll be happy to provide those.
You have the floor. Go ahead.
A lot of reasons.
Can you speak up? We're having a hard time. The administration's having a hard time hearing you. Is there a microphone on?
The best mic in the whole room. I thought I wanted to push back a little bit on the assertion that police living in the community that they're policing is only important. Also note that that people who live in the city travel to Ogden and can have interactions with police. Prioritize residency, some communities for social workers, you know, it's at an unprompted email from a constituent about this, to get an email about an issue or if something has come up in committee, as everyone knows. And part of that communication was part of the proposal to allow the sheriff's department to hire people who live outside of Monroe County. I want to share my strong objection to this direction. It is going in the opposite direction as the city of Rochester at a time when our collective community has been struggling with the lack of trust in the police by large parts of our community. This lack of trust is due to the impact of police-community interactions driven by our segregation as a community, lack of understanding between majority white community and police and people different from the majority community. The racial segregation in Monroe County is very bad, but drawing from an even more racially segregated area will worsen this problem. So I understand staffing is extremely difficult and folks are just trying to find a way to mitigate that, but I'm going to be a no to this at this time.
Is there anything further? We need a roll call vote. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? 1, 2.
7-2, still passes.
Okay, 7-2 still passes. Is there any other matters to come before this committee? That was the last one, correct? Okay. There being no unfinished matters, the March 28th, 2023 meeting of the Public Safety Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Public Safety Committee will be held on Tuesday, April 25th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m.